Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writers Chat, where we talk about all things writing for writers and by writers. And we're excited that you're joining us here today, either live. We've got some of our regulars in the chat room. We're excited to see everybody here. And if you're watching the replay, we have quite a few of you that I know pull up that replay later on, and we just always like the comments that we get later and stuff. So we're excited that you're here with us today. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts and one of the producers here at the Writers Chat. I'm joined today by Bethany Jett. Which way do I want to go that way? Bethany Jett, who is our special guest also today. So I'm going to turn it over really quickly to Bethany and have her tell us a little bit. She's going to share some special knowledge with us today. So I'm excited about learning today from Bethany. So what do you want to talk about today, Bethany?
I'm excited to talk about marketing and branding, which we made such a big topic overview. So I was trying to figure out how to narrow it down. So I made a lot of notes. I went through a lot of books, and I just hope to really give a lot of value and then help people be able to start just figuring out where they need to go with the branding, because it's always changing. You know,
it's always changing, and it's overwhelming, isn't it? I always think sometimes when you hear so much and you have some good ideas and stuff, you just have to choose the one next step that you got to do, the next right thing. So
yes,
on that. So I'm looking forward to hearing from you today. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I have a lot of notes in front of me, so please ask questions in the chat. So I don't want to just talk at you guys. Look at our computer here. So really, I thought maybe the first place to start off would be 3 characteristics of healthy brands. And I also wanted to give you guys a lot of resources. So I want this to be very valuable. So I'm going to show you 4 books, and we will make sure we get the links to them in the Facebook group and everything as well. So Start With Why by Simon, I think it's Sinek is how you say it, but he has a TED Talk, something about leaders. It's not called Start With Why, but that's his message in there. It's had over 37 million views on that particular TED Talk. It's how leaders inspire, basically. And it was one of the things that we talked about in our marketing class this last week. So this is an amazing book. He talks about how companies and brands that tell you why they do something succeed over a company or brand that just sells you a product. And I think as writers, especially if we're just always pitching our book, there's really no reason for people to buy it because you're just someone else pitching the book. Hey, Del. But if they know why you're writing and your why aligns with their why, they're more likely to read and listen to you and develop into an audience. So this book is incredible.
And you had that in your graduate course, a lot of these.
We talk about him a lot. He comes up quite a bit in the different classes. They'll refer to his TED Talk. And then inside of the book, he gives a lot of companies, but Apple is one that comes back over and over and over. And almost every marketing class that I have, they always go back to Apple because they had failures in the beginning. I mean, it wasn't just smooth sailing, for them. But Steve Jobs was just visionary and held to what his brand was. And they did that. They could build more than just computers because their philosophy was bigger than just electronics.
Yeah, and so it really shows you what one person can do, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, everybody. All right, the second one is Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller.
Here we'll have it on both views here because I just got mine a couple days ago.
Yes. This one is called Clarify Your Message So Customers Will Listen. And actually it was people in Writers Chat who recommended it a couple weeks ago, I think. I think it was Rachel or Rebecca. And then, so I went ahead and got it and started reading it. And I haven't quite finished it yet, but I'm almost all the way through. So I'm keeping my place with the jacket. But it really inspired me. And I'm making notes in here for my company. And that's one point, so that when you're a person as a brand and your company as a brand, you think of things in a different manner sometimes, because you think, oh, if I had a product to sell, just a product, it would be easier. But what we found with Serious Writer in particular is that when we think of marketing, we have to personify the product or the brand or the company. Like, we can't just say we're Serious Writer. We have to have a personality and a culture and all of those things that you have to create, just like we do for writing. So I really recommend this for writers, and just make yourself the brand. Two more. You Are a Brand.
I've not read that one.
This is the one, actually, this was my textbook for one of my classes, and I've got lots of notes in here and lots of highlights. If this is probably the one book, if I have to recommend one book for you to start with, it would be this one, because she just breaks down everything about personal branding, and actually a lot of what we're going to talk about today is pulled from her.
And who's the author again on that one?
Her name is Catherine, and it's Caputa. I think, well, I don't know how to say it, but it's Kaputa.
Okay.
It's called You Are a Brand.
Okay. Vicky's put it in the chat room for us. Thank you, Vicky.
You guys are amazing. And of course, Crushing It. If you don't have your copy, this book needs to be on your bookshelf because it talks about execution.
Gary V, right?
Gary Vaynerchuk.
Yep, I haven't read that one, so.
Yeah, he's amazing. And, my sister and I were talking, my husband and I were talking about him, because I remember when Snapchat first came out and everyone said, Gary V went to Snapchat, so everybody moved to Snapchat. And I'm thinking, I don't know who Gary V is. Like, who cares, basically? And then I realized that he's got like 27 million followers on every single social media platform. Like, this guy's the real deal. And I probably should get to know. So that's why I love him, because he's actually executing on all the social media and reaching his audience everywhere they are. So That is why I'm always recommending him.
So when you see his name, you pay attention.
Always.
Yes. Out of those 4 books, I'm just curious, if you only could buy one, which would you recommend? That might be hard, but.
If you're just starting out, I would suggest the Catherine Caputa book, You Are a Brand, because it was so enlightening. And not only that, it made me feel like I had done some things right. So it was very encouraging.
Oh.
And then I saw areas to improve as well. And it was just, she doesn't go too deep into the execution of all the different social media. She really, it's kind of theory, but also how to apply it. So I found it to be really, really helpful.
Good. And just because I know you're not getting to watch the chat as much, Deborah made an interesting comment that she had read Story Brand, and she said you'll really think about your book copy totally different after reading Story Brand.
Amen.
Yeah. So I thought that was a good. Go ahead.
Yeah, I stayed up till 4:30 last night because I couldn't stop thinking about the Serious Writer brand, and I changed some things on the website even to match more about what Story Brand is saying. And what they're saying is that you're not the hero. Your audience is the hero. You're the guide. And we hear that. James Rubart teaches that at conferences. And basically what that means is everybody in any story, the hero can't do it on their own. They have to have someone help them, because if they could overcome whatever challenge or beat the villain on their own, nobody would read the book or watch the movie.
That's true.
So we are the guide. So we're having to help them, create a path for them, tell them what's expected next, and they get to decide if they want to align with us or not, which is why you personify. So, yeah.
And I think, don't you think that's part of the secret why, if you build a sense of community, either within a group or in a brand or on our blogs or whatever, that sense of community builds into that?
I do. Yes, because people are looking for that. And he talks about a lot of different areas in there about what value that you can give to people, and community is one of them. People want to belong. And then, survive or thrive messages. So that actually we could do a whole show on that book alone.
Say that again, because you said that quickly. Survive or?
Thrive.
So survive or thrive messages.
Yes.
Can you give us an example what that would be, like, say, for writers?
Yeah, what he says in the very beginning of the book, it's sort of the opening, this is Donald Miller in Story Brand. His opening premise is that our brains burn calories, which is something I hadn't thought about. And the more clear your message is, the less calories your brain has to consume, which is why we will jump from a website that, we can't figure out what it is in literally 2 seconds. We're off because it took too much subconscious. We're done. And so if we can create a message that helps people either survive or thrive, then that is your hook. Anything else is noise. And most of the time the message is about you. And I even saw that with our branding, especially, and he even said, especially when you're starting up, sometimes the message will be why you feel like you're able to be in the space. But that isn't what draws in the customers. It makes you feel better. It confirms yourself, basically. And so, so we don't need to do that. But and then he gives examples on how your audience, and that's going to depend on what you write or, how you define yourself, what pain points. That's something we're going to talk about in my notes today too. So survive or thrive.
Yeah. Rebecca also shared a video that's on his website. And so that's over on the storybrand.com website. So that's over in the chat room. And those of you that are watching the replay, if you go to storybrand.com under workshops, you might be able to find that video.
And if you buy the book, he actually gives you access to the storyboard or Storybrand, like template boards. So you can go online and he walks you through the steps.
Yeah, I noticed that today. I just was flipping through it, and you notice I marked one page, and it said go to the mystorybrand.com and log in and go to that website and brainstorm things. So he has tools there.
It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the important things. I think we spend a lot of time on the wrong things. Something I tweeted last night is that, we worry about like how much time I spend on social media or how long the post should be. And like, those are just metrics. But, as I was reading, I was thinking we are a society of binge watchers and novel series readers. And if the content is good, we will take all of it and then want more of it. And so I think if we get good content and if we create our brand's story, like Donald Miller is saying, then we don't have to worry about all of those other things because the marketing kind of starts taking care of itself because you're implementing different strategies. But then also your audience finds you and then they talk about you, which is, the word of mouth thing. And so I think we need to start focusing more on how are we reaching our customers and not worry so much about the analytic or metrics of how we're doing it. Although that's important. I want to be on record. That's extremely important. But I think sometimes when we get started, we don't pay attention to that. We pay attention to the stuff that doesn't matter right away.
I'm already sensing we've got some homework to do.
I tell you what, like 3 o'clock in the morning and I can't sleep because my website's not giving the right message. I mean, that's how powerful Donald Miller's words were, and I'm writing notes like who's the villain for writers, who is it? What is the stress for us? And so, how do I make clear steps for what our audience wants? And so, that's just turning in my mind.
And, as I read the little assignments this morning, they said brainstorm with your team. And then as a writer, it was just kind of like, but I don't have a team, we write by ourselves and stuff like that. So we ought to help each other here in Writers Chat or help connect with someone else and just say, I'll work through the book and you work through the book and let's brainstorm with one another. Don't you think that it sometimes helps to have that outside voice? Don't you think?
All the time. I call them holes. Vicki said this is definitely our team. Like a lot of times we'll say, listen, I need to say this out loud because I don't know where my blind spots are, but you can see them. And so all the time, in our emails to each other, sometimes you can feel really stupid or like you don't know what you're talking about writing these emails, which is, I know I feel that way because I'm questioning things. But part of the reason I'm doing it is because if I say it on paper, someone else has the chance to look at it and say, okay, no, that's not right. And we need to change this. And I think when you find people who love you and they can just say, okay, we need to fix this, then all of a sudden you're fixing the problem before it ever starts because it's not getting to the customer. It's already handled. So I love Vicki for this so much. She's one of the ones that I bounce stuff off all the time.
Oh, that's perfect. That's perfect. And a couple of people said they like the new homepage, by the way. You're getting some good response that way. Jan says she's got a couple mentors to work with. So I think that is an important tool we all need to work on to have.
I agree.
Okay. What else you got?
I have a ton, and it was so hard to just get it through the funnel. So the 3 characteristics of healthy brands, I could probably start there. And then the other things are just sort of your manifesto, I guess, of thoughts about what to do. So I'll tell you the 3 characteristics, and then we'll dig in. The first one is humility. 3 characteristics of a healthy brand: humility, empathy, and authority.
Except I spelled it wrong in the chat.
So this is from reading all of these books and kind of putting, all the different things together. Hi, Mandy. This is Bethany Jett's idea of 3 characters. So the humility part, and this is all stuff we already know. So it's kind of like when Dave Ramsey says, I'm telling you everything that your grandma told you, I'm just packaging it differently. That's kind of the same thing. Like, none of this is new. It's just, I don't know, a different way to think about it. So the humility part, we kind of talked about, it's not about you because you're not the hero. And when you position yourself as the hero, nobody wants that. And one of the companies that he talked about was CarMax, and how they find your pain point, which is you don't want to haggle and you don't want to deal with the car salesman.
That's right.
So they kind of take care of that for you. They're not the hero. You are the one who gets to walk off with the car, and you're the one who gets to do it your way. And they don't really talk about the car buying experience as much as they talk about how you get to handle your car buying experience. So I found that
a little bit of a mind shift there, isn't there?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yep. And then James Rubart talked about this too in one of the classes he taught at a conference, and he uses Star Wars as an example, which is also an example that Donald Miller used too. Like any story, basically, Narnia, just recapping on things that we've said. Luke Skywalker doesn't know what to do. He has all this self-doubt.
Yeah.
The customer, your audience, has that self-doubt too. And then Obi-Wan is the guide, and he helps.
Mm-hmm.
Tubness, I guess, in Narnia, the first one, he kind of helps the kids figure out what's going on while they're there, but he's not the hero, and neither is Obi-Wan. And then, so it's very interesting. And then you always have to have a villain, those kinds of things. So definitely read StoryBrand so we can have a big talk about the book. And then another thing that he says in the StoryBrand book is, if we can change our customer story for the better, shouldn't we be bold about inviting them to do business with us? So in the humility section, I think especially Christian writers, we confuse self-promotion with arrogance. But if you believe that God has called you to do something, then why aren't we being more bold? Like, why is the Christian fiction, why are Christian bookstores going out of business? Like, why are there more Christian podcasts that are hitting the iTunes top lists? I mean, we should be doing this with excellence, and we should be more bold about it because we have God on our side. So, I think we really need to adjust this idea of I'm being humble, because I think we confuse it.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And people do get that. Like Rebecca said, there's a fine line between God gave me this book and God gave me this book. You know what I mean? Because she took the quotation marks out. Yeah.
It's true.
There is. And stuff. And I love the image of a guide. I think that kind of takes the ego out of it a little bit more. You're alongside it more. So that's a good point. That's a good image to have as we think about any of our writing.
I agree. And then one thing that helped me, going back to, my boy Brendan Burchard, he talked about, and Jeff Goins talks about this as well, that there's like 4 different kinds of experts, but one of them can be a resource expert. And so I feel like that really kind of helps me. I can be the expert, which just means I know more than the next person. And there's always going to be someone who's an expert to you in different areas. But if I'm a resource expert, basically I'm the one who's finding the content on a topic from other people who know more than I do.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and you're a resource expert for us today.
Exactly. And that's what we can do on our blogs, on our social media. Like, if we just define ourselves that way, that helps with the humility aspect of it. But then also, I think it helps because we don't feel like we're promoting self. We feel like we're promoting other people. Right. But really, we are doing ourselves. And it does take time. And it is, like Vicki said, it's frowned upon to do self-promotion. And I think there has to be a mind shift. And I think we're all going to hit it in different aspects of our journey as writers. I mean, I know about the time when I was feeling this shift happen, when I had to kind of mentally put myself in a different place and say, if I hired a publicist, what would I want them to say? Or if I go to this meeting and I have to write a bio for them specifically, what do I want them to know about me that I don't want to say out loud to them? Or I won't say in person, because I won't do that in person. That's what has to go on the paper. That's what has to do that. So I kind of had to like mentally go into I guess, a publicist role very early on. And I think once we start doing that, it just gets easier to sort of turn that off and on.
That sounds great. It sounds great. And a lot of people are saying they wish it wasn't always that way.
Mm-hmm.
But, I like that we could tell they don't always know. They don't always understand the self-promotion side of it. Some of our friends.
Yeah. And like, there's really not an easy way to do that because we all deal with that, in some way. But at some point, if you know that you're right about what you're saying, then you have to just let that go. Some of my friends who are not in the entrepreneurial business or in the writing business, they just, but I think knowing which platforms to use to do it right helps too. Like Facebook personal pages, really hard to do that on. I mean, you have to be so careful about what gets shared there because it's like that. LinkedIn is a good place to do some of the other stuff. Like,
exactly. So that was humility.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one is
empathy.
Empathy.
Yes. And this is a big one. This is one reason why I love Gary Vee so much is because of how much he loves people and how much he talks about empathy all the time. And then in StoryBrand too, which is what I was going through last night, is, the same thing. They were talking about empathy again. And then even in direct sales, I did Mary Kay for a long time right out of college, and they do the same thing. And it's like a sales technique with your customer. You do a feel, felt, found way of speaking to them, because the goal is you have to make an instant connection. So even at writers' conferences or networking events, you have a very short amount of time to connect with somebody. And if they're giving you an objection for whatever it is, then if you have a story or someone has a story that's similar, then you go into feel, felt, found, which is, oh, Jean, I know how you feel. I felt the same exact way, but do you know what I found? And that sounds rehearsed because it is. So it comes out more now. You need to make it more natural.
Come out more natural. Can I go back to, and I think it was Rebecca used the word earlier, it's almost like you come alongside them instead of speaking down to them or dragging them along or too preachy.
Yes. And so many people who are, really big in the industry, they started out doing the similar things, but they didn't have social media, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. They were doing going to churches and asking, speaking for free, all the things that we still teach. There's nothing new there. It's just we have a much faster way. Now we can give our own messages out. We don't have to wait for someone to give us permission.
Right.
And all that kind of stuff.
I think in the social media, you're a lot more visible. Kind of like what Jan says, you're a little bit easier target sometime in social media than what you used to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And we can share like things that are going on, especially I think it's easier to show empathy on social media because you can share videos of whatever it is that touches people's hearts, within your brand, or even if you're writing fiction, there's always nonfiction topics that are going on. And so you can start sharing those things with people and caring about people. Gary Vee, when people, he does a live call-in show, I think every day, and then people put their phone numbers in Facebook, and then they call people randomly, and they get to talk to him on the air. So they're always like so surprised when they get picked. And the first 30 seconds to a minute is them freaking out, and then not remembering what they were going to ask. And he always gives them so much patience, and I'm always surprised because I think he's so direct, and I always think he's going to say, "Okay, next." But he says, man, it's okay. Like, just, we're here. We're not going anywhere. Take your time. I mean, so he just meets people where they are, gives them a chance to freak out, and then, helps them with their issue or stops on the street for them. So that's empathy. And like, that you love that, we love that in our hero, and people want to love that in you.
It's a real connection with your audience, and a very strong connection with your audience.
It is.
Yes. Okay. So empathy and
and
humility.
Yes. One way you can show empathy too, I think, is on your website in your about page. I think that's where you can do a feel, felt, found sort of template, because you need to address the pain point for whatever reason someone has stumbled upon your website or your blog, and you can connect with them there. Like, do you feel, because it's always about them, do you feel stressed about always getting rejected? I felt the same way. I had 500 rejection letters, but here's what I found, here's how to cope. So like you've connected with them. They see that you know, going into authority, that you've experienced it. And then now you're going to be able to guide them to do. So feel, felt, found works really well on an about page.
Say that one more time because I got to write it out. Feel, felt, found. I want to write that down on the about page. I'm wondering if you could somehow incorporate a little bit of that in some of these mini bios, profiles, that like for Instagram and Pinterest and wherever we put them, we can to incorporate that into our verbiage that we put there.
I'm writing this down too. That's a great idea. I wonder what our bios would look like if that's a formula we used for people.
Yeah, it makes you wonder if we could. Sometimes you're limited in a number of words, and you want to get certain keywords in there, but I'm wondering if there'd be ways we could play with that.
Yeah.
That'd be fun to kind of mess with and see what we can.
I like that.
We'll have to try that. Yeah. I used to feel that way, but I found. Yes. Okay, so we have humility and empathy, and now authority. I think
authority.
Okay.
And so this was from StoryBrand, and it's a direct quote. And he said, "Your customer wants to check off the trust box." So very quickly, like when they go to your website, they want to trust you, and so you need to give them reasons to trust you, and they'll do it very quickly. And I think of myself as a consumer, when I read these things too, what do I do when I go to web pages? I think it's important to do that. But awards, testimonials, featured in, all of those things are that social proof, which is self-promotion. But if your customer can't find anything like that, there's not that. He says they have a need to check off that trust box. And if you don't provide them with a way to do that very quickly, then you have lost it, and then the message is gone. And so that's why it's important to have that stuff.
So it's got to be pretty easily found, either about page or the sidebar or your main page or something like that. At least something of credibility is what you're saying. Okay.
Especially with word of mouth. I mean, I think about Michael Hyatt, because he has a featured in section, which I copied. But I thought it was genius. And then, he had on his Get Noticed theme different people's sites to check out. So I went there, and there are people with big brands, and almost all of them had a featured in section, and he had it built into the brand. So I thought, okay, this is important, because if I tell someone who's never heard of him before, go listen to Michael Hyatt, they're just going on my word. But if they go to his website, he's featured in Forbes, CNN, all these things, bestseller. All of a sudden, I now am going to listen to everything he says, because that 2 seconds of seeing that has made me willing to trust him. And so you need to give your audience a reason to trust you.
So we need to work on that. We need to all, as featured in, but we got to get featured in.
Start with one, like write for someone for free. Then, that's how you build your publication credits. So, if you're not featured anywhere yet, it's okay. Just start. Like that would be your next homework assignment. And
as featured in, almost an author.
Yes.
Featured in, serious writer. We can help each other a little bit on that, I think. Yes, totally.
LinkedIn is a really great place for this too, because you can list courses, awards, endorsements, like all of the self-promotion things that's perfectly acceptable and needed there. And that's why I think every author needs to have LinkedIn, because people do check that. Yes. You can get work there. A lot of clients come through LinkedIn because it's more business professional. So you definitely need to be there, and you definitely need to keep it updated. And it just really helps deliver that social proof, because basically if someone's asking you questions, you could just say, go to my LinkedIn. Yeah,
there you go. And you gave us a tip, I think, even without realizing you gave us a tip, that you made the comment when you studied Michael Hyatt's page. And saw what worked for you as that reader, and then took it a little bit further, and then took it into yours. And, I think sometimes we could look at other authors' page and ask ourselves, why is that working for me? What is it about that page that I like? And even if you just find one little thing as featured in, and pull that as your tip of the month to incorporate in, because we can't do it all at once.
Anytime I find something that I really like, I try to think about the behavior. Why do I like it so much? And then implement it. So like for Facebook pages, there was one, it was like a mom's saying, but it was mostly mom memes. And once in a while there'd be quotes. And I spent you know how you can get lost, you know, on social media. I probably spent 10 minutes just scrolling through because everything was so funny, you know, and I just go down, or I connected with it. And I thought, when is the last time I have ever stayed on a Facebook business page? Never. Like, their stuff comes through my wall, whatever. I never check them out. You know, you like people's pages, but you don't go there on purpose.
Yeah.
But this one was like really good. And I thought, okay, there was so much great content there for entertainment. That's something maybe we need to start putting into ours when we're doing that kind of stuff. So like,
more entertainment. Humor is always, you could always win with humor, I think, on that. Dale wanted to know if you took Michael Hyatt's courses. Have you taken any of his courses?
Yeah, so you have to build a platform no matter what. I need that said. Yeah. So my book got picked up when I had zero platform at my first writers conference. That sounds great, except there's no email list, there's no social media, there's no website, there's nothing. And then all of your sales numbers from you not having a platform are then attached when you want to sell your second book, third book. So you have to build a platform at some point in the process. I think it's easier, having done it the hard way, to do it on the front end, so that you keep all your customers. I don't know who bought Cinderella Rule because I didn't know what email lists were. So, you know, start there. So yes, so I found Michael Hyatt because I was researching about platform, and he was my first online mentor. I did Platform University for a little while.
I did too.
And then, but that's his target audience, is helping people get that started. And then you move. I mean, so you guys have watched through Writers Chat, like Michael Hyatt, Brendan Burchard, you know, Gary Vee right now. And, you know, once you get what you need from somebody, from your guide, you know, maybe now you're going into like the next movie and it's another guide coming to help you. It's kind of like on your journey. So, and you're going to be that for other people. You know, some people are going to come into your list in your life for a while. They get what they need. And then hopefully, you know, the student surpasses the teacher. They move on to someone else for that journey. And then you're still bringing in the next people. So,
yeah. And don't you find out when you teach, you also learn and kind of deepen that knowledge. So that's one thing neat about, and writers really have a very strong heritage of helping one another, I think.
I agree. I'm a big believer in courses. I have spent a crazy amount of money on courses. Some of them I haven't even taken, but I love courses. I think people are giving you so much information. A lot of you can get for free through their stuff, but at some point when you need to go further and like they built trust with you and they've given you a lot, then it's like, okay, I'm ready to go to the next level.
And I think we have to do some discernment on, like you said, I early on used to buy courses and never complete them or hardly get into them. And I'm being much more discerning and much more intentional these last 2 years, I think, of what I am purchasing, and more intentional to complete them. I've got one I'm about 3/4 of the way through, and I want to get it done, but she has homework, and I haven't got my homework done, so I can't go to the next module.
Right. And like, there's one course I took, and I really recommend Grant Baldwin's book, from Paid to Speak. And I went in there right when I was starting to develop the speaking side of things. I went into one module. It's exactly what I needed. I pulled everything that I needed from it, and then I never went back in. Wow. But it's there for me. And I got it. That one module was worth every penny of the course.
Right.
Because it's exactly what I needed, and it's what I bought it for.
And some courses have lifetime you can keep going back, and a lot of times you get the free upgrade when they redo it.
Yes.
You know,
I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And that's, well, now listen, that's something we need to hear. You know, if we end up creating courses, then you always have to have lifetime access to them, which I think serious writers do, don't they? Vicki and Bethany, they do have lifetime access.
Every instructor gets to choose that, but I recommend it. And one reason is because there was a course that I took, and it was just, I was building stuff from the ground up. You know, it was like in the early stages of hustle when I needed to pay rent, you know, like after Justin left ministry. So I got in the course, took some of it, but then took some other stuff, and I didn't need her things right then. But then she had a year limit on it. And so when the year came around, I just remember being so frustrated that why did it need to end? Like, she's still doing the program. So why are you kicking me out of, that's how it felt. Now I knew that going in. So there, you know, I knew I had a year.
And on the other hand, like, I've got one of Amy Porterville's courses here, her list building lab. And that was so worth it. I didn't buy her other two, but I bought that. She redid it all this year, and we got all the new stuff. Boy, that made me be a even more loyal fan.
Yes.
of her material. So, yes, she gave it to me free because I had already purchased it, but still, that bought my loyalty in a big, big way. It really did. I would look at her other classes because I had such a good bargain with this. So it works.
And I think it shows empathy and generosity and authority. You're hitting actually all of them, because she's saying, okay, I've learned more stuff. She's rewarding you for being there and getting on the ground floor with her, which is what you want. And Marie Forleo with B School is the same way. Every year she has new content, new bonuses, and they'll throw them in there. And it's like, okay, it's these small little things. Yeah. It doesn't cost anything.
Yeah. They've already produced it. They've already produced it for something else that they are getting some income. They just kind of share it,
It's like rewards. And like there's ways we can do that for free when we're starting out too. I mean, email list. I mean, we have an exciting announcement that we're really excited about. And it's going out on Friday in the email list. They get it first. And that's just one, and that's hard because I like to share stuff right away. Yeah. And so having to refrain from just like sharing is hard, but they earn it. Like they stay on the list. And so those are small ways to kind of give back to people who are just, and it always makes me want to have better content for them too.
So I think generosity ought to be added to your list.
Yes, I agree.
Let's add generosity.
Number 4.
How can we be generous with our brand? And doesn't that really just kind of bring the attention off of you and onto them anyway? How could we be generous to our readers? I just think that's a neat way to think about it.
Thanks. It's one of our serious writer philosophies too. It was Jean Weiland, if any of you know her. She's one of the sweetest ladies ever. And she's, she said one time, I always want to be known as being over kind and over generous than less. And so that's something that we think about that all the time and say it to each other sometimes, when we're deciding what to do. It's like, okay, I'm not in the wrong here. Sometimes we're in the wrong, but if we're not in the wrong, like, how can I still be generous? Because that's really what your personal brand is. Another word for that is really just reputation. And so your personal brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room. Right. And that's your brand, whether you like it or not. And if you want to be known as being generous, then you have to be generous.
Yeah. Rachel's kind of put in that her friend Robin Farnsworth, who is the author of The Greater Weight of Glory, she's going to a book signing. She had a difficult time with self-promoting. She hates it, as does Rachel there too. And I keep trying to shove her into the light, and that's something sometimes a friend can help us. Yeah. With that, so you can help each other, but we can't expect God and others to do all the work. We do need to do part of that. We become co-laborers with God. I like how she said that on that way. Yeah, on that way. And Deborah shared that C.S. Lakin has a resource page. Live, Write, Thrive. I think I get that in my email on that with a lot of links and resources to download. See, that's an example of somebody sharing a lot of things, isn't it?
Yes, I love that.
Yeah. And of course, Serious Writers got a lot of great things on that way. So, yay. So we're glad to hear that in the chat. Thank you for sharing some of those resources, guys, with one another and stuff. What else you got on your list there, Bethany?
Okay, so now we're going to go up into like the rando.
Yeah.
stuff. But actually with self-promotion, I think 2 things that just came to my mind. If we're doing marketing and our personal brand's right, and it's not about us, it's about our audience, then the word I and me will very rarely be in there, which makes it much easier to promote. And so basically, my friend Dave Shrine did this on Facebook one time, and he does a lot of website for companies. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's amazing. He's got his own company and business, and works with a lot of clients, and he helps them figure out like how to get people to understand exactly what's going on in their business right away. And so he posted a story on his personal Facebook, and instead of saying, he said it like this: have you ever had a day where you dropped your Starbucks cup, your French fries were cold, and you ran out of gas on the way to work? So like, or those like hashtag asking for a friend, that people will put like, has anyone ever done this, asking for a friend? Mm-hmm. Those are ways to, obviously you're guessing he dropped his Starbucks, he ran out of gas, and like you're assuming the story belonged to him, but he just reworded it so that it became about you. And now all of a sudden you can engage because you have a story that is similar, and he didn't say the word I once. And so those are ways that I think the self-promotion we can change that narrative. So if we have the words I and me, it's fine to write it out in the first draft, but then we need to go back in and say,
yes.
or we.
That is a great example. I'm thinking when you said that about the about page, a lot of times they say make it third person, but that's still then the I. Even if you make it that Bethany Jett is a award-winning bestseller, New York Times bestseller, let's just say, it's still about you.
Yeah.
So you still got to, even if it's third person, you got to think about that, don't you?
Mm-hmm. And I have, I saw, like, you're always stealing ideas from people. It's totally fine to do that. Like, you want to give credit when you need to, but, like if someone has an amazing about page, you can pretty much copy the formula because it's going to be different content. But one way that what I like to do, and I probably need to go back and check mine before anyone goes there before I've looked at it in a while, is I like to do first person in the beginning of the about page so that there can be like a feel, felt, found. But, have you ever felt like this? Then this is what we're going to dig into because this is where we're going. And but then I have a little link, I think still on there, that says bio, or you can have a media kit. And then that can be very much, like you said, third person, because it's very clear the people who are looking at the media kit, they want a third person bio.
Yes.
And so then you're reaching those people who come to your website, the people who want that, and then also connecting with your audience.
That's a great idea to kind of do both.
Yeah.
Claire. Great idea. We'll have to check out. Again, somebody said earlier, we got to go do an about page day. We're going to have to work on that. But we should periodically update them and check them out anyway, because they do get dated, or you've got a new book and you haven't even remembered to put it there. So you've got to do that periodically anyway as a writer.
All right, ready for some random?
Sure, let's get some randoms. We got it's about not quite quarter of, so maybe a good 5 minutes of some random, and then we'll invite people back in for discussion in about 5 minutes or so. So give us some randoms.
All right, in You Are a Brand, page 5, she says, branding is about soft power. And the soft things are like ideas, intellectual capital, alliances, relationships. It's not necessarily hard strength. And so page 5, when you get the book, she totally goes more into detail about that. But I like that because my personality is so non-combative and non-confrontational that oftentimes growing up, if you're like that too, you can feel like you're the weaker, inferior one. But I think there's something to be said for quiet strength.
Sure. That's
what meekness means, actually. It's the line, it's the line in, it's like strength under control, or there might be another word for what, the definition is. It's like when, Jesus says, blessed are the meek, we think walk over, but really it means strong. And, so I like that soft power. Like that's the kind of leader I want to be, is a soft leader.
Yeah, and what a neat way to remind yourself of that, as you're going into any of these self-promoting things, that I think that would take that edge off a little bit. Yeah, I like that. Soft power. Meekness.
And Tony said, branding for introverts. Listen, I am mega introverted. INFJs, for anyone else who's out there, like we're the extroverted introvert, but not really. And so here's the thing. I get to be an introvert and win because I can do everything here. Like, through my phone. Like, I don't have to go to, like, people are like, do you want to come talk and do coffee? No, never. I do not. That makes me want to vomit. So I will do a video chat. I will Skype. We can email. Like, we are living in the best time for an introvert ever. So we just need to embrace this.
And people would be surprised. We're both introverts. I think, if I remember right, we're both the same Myers-Briggs. Both of us are. Vicky is too.
Yep.
And, and to function like this within a small group, or in a small group like this, because it doesn't, even though there's 12, 13, 15 participants today.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I'm in a group of 15 right now. Even when you all come on board, there's something a little bit safer for us introverts.
Yes. I love it so much. You still get to connect with people, and for the introverts out there, you get to love on people even at conferences when you go. Like, you're all in, loving the people, loving talking about it, but then as soon as you're done, it's like you're wiped.
Oh yes. I agree. Yeah. I've had 3 different incidents lately that I didn't want to go, and then I went and had such a good time when I went. And I kept saying, Jeannie, as an introvert, you need to be out with people sometimes. You just got to do this. Don't resist it so much. So it is healthier for us on that. Okay, got a couple more?
I got to grab a book. So this is another one, Fascinate by Sally Hogshead.
Hogshead,
So the next random thing about personal branding is you need to know how people see you. And so this is actually a good segue because, we do all the personality tests because we love to feel like confirmed or validated in how we feel, which is why I love the Myers-Briggs, because it put words to all the thoughts that I thought were strange. And you get to kind of figure out areas you need to grow and what's just normal for you and give yourself some grace. Fascinate, and Sally Hogshead, her whole thing started with corporations, and she would go in and give people these tests to figure out how they are perceived. So like I've said this before, like if you think you're funny, then nobody else thinks you're funny, then you're not funny. And like you shouldn't go try to do stand-up comedy on video to reach your audience because it's not going to hit.
And I think she's got an assessment in there too, correct?
Yeah. I think it was sometimes, so she does charge for her assessments for individuals, but sometimes they're free, and it might be free now, I don't know. But if you go to Fascinate or How to Fascinate, just if you Google that, Sally Hogshead, her website will pop up.
Okay.
It was awesome. And I took a free one, but then I also paid to learn what my weakness was. And she talks about when you have a day that you are on and everything is going right, not because of situations, but because you are living in exactly, I would call it God's purpose for my life, or how he created you. Those 2 areas are the ones that how the world sees you. And so when you know those 2 areas, then I think you can start branding around how you are perceived. And so like prestige is one of mine. So everything went to gold and black for me because those are prestige colors. So like Mercedes-Benz, and like I'm reading a book on them, or Starbucks, all of these, Lexus. So I'm starting to study all of these companies that also hit a prestige fascination advantage because I scored high in that. And so you want to do the same thing. Like when you read her book and take the test, which brands do this well, and then start aligning how you're branding yourself similar to how they're doing it, because then it just makes it so much more natural and things just fall into place so much easier once that clicked. And so I recommend that a lot.
That sounds good. And I'm going to kind of go back what we said to the very beginning. We listened to the whole idea of branding. It does become a bit overwhelming. But what I'm hearing from your lessons is that it's a continual process. It's never going to be perfection. It's more process, and you just got to keep working on it type thing.
Yes.
And it will be evolving.
Yeah. And, one way that you can do that without looking flighty is don't tell people you're going to change your website. Just do it, or don't say I'm going off. Okay, I'm not telling you what to do, but, I'm going off of social media because I'm going to go do all this. That's great if that's what you're doing it. But if you're doing it as part of your marketing ploy, just do the thing and say, hey, look what we did. I mean, that's so much more fun sometimes. My sister and I have a friend who was on, she was Shark Tank. She didn't make it on the show, but she got really close. But nobody knew she was doing it until all of a sudden she had all these pictures. Hey, look what I did. And it was like all of a sudden then you got to go through this journey with her. Now she could have done it the other way where we went through the process with her, and that's fine too. So that is a big INFJ contradiction, showing both sides of the prism. So sorry about that. But there's 2 ways. There's more than one to do this. And Vicki said her strengths are mystique and alert, which is exactly like knowing the fascination advantages. Like when Vicki says that, I know exactly who Vicki is. Like, come out with the INFJ, which is why these are important. And that mystique is my second one. And so that's when you can play up the whole like Hitch, the movie Hitch, where it's by referral only. So if mystique is one of your fascination advantages, then maybe it's harder for people to get in touch with you, or maybe you are a referral only system because that's building into how people perceive you. So this book will change your life.
Okay.
There's also one called How the World Sees You. Brilliance.
What we got? Do you want to invite people in, or do you want to do one more?
I'll do one more.
Okay.
I'll do 2 more quickly.
Okay. 2 more.
Okay.
What we want to hear?
Another thing she said was brands beat generic products every day. And page 8 of her book, she says, generic products compete only on price. Brands are perceived as higher quality and sell for a premium. And so you are a brand, you are not generic. And so you need to start making your content look brand name, which people will pay for, which means buying your book and your products. So that, and then the last thing was the 3 steps of branding were brand strategy, which is finding your self-branding idea. Creative development is step 2, which is the packaging of brand you. And then the 3rd step is the marketing, which is building the visibility and connectivity. So these are all phases and steps. And it's always a process, like you said. Like, change your tagline, fine. Don't announce that you did it, just do it. That's kind of where I was going with the whole announcing kind of thing.
Great. And I love it that we're not generic brands. And we are unique. We're unique children of God. You know, we're unique. Find that unique, that true self, that core, his fingerprint inside you, and build that, you know, and that's sort of what you're saying with the personalities and stuff.
It's actually called a USP. Like, this is something that I've learned just in grad school, and then you'll see it now. I start seeing it places if you start, you know, reading a lot of like Forbes or Fast Company, but it's a unique selling proposition. And so when you know yours, things start clicking as well. So we can bring people in and chat and stuff. And
that's great. Why don't everybody come on in if you want to? And if you can't come in, I almost say this every week, if you can't release it, because there's a couple people queued off their video, just put it in the chat room that you're having trouble getting in, and then I can hit that. So Melissa and Rebecca, come on in. We got a couple people on their phones today and stuff. If you can't get in, just let us know, and we'll get you in here on that way. Anybody have anything they want to add or ask today? Go ahead and jump in.
Deborah, I love your background.
Actually, that was a sunrise facing, you know, that's what I can look at when I'm at work. Today, I see nothing but gray.
Nothing but gray outside, maybe?
Nothing but gray, yeah, and white.
On that.
How'd you do that?
It's a green screen.
Oh, wow.
Set up through Zoom.
How cool.
It was really pretty easy. And
okay, Dale, I'll get you, Dale. Let me get that.
So
hey.
I've been reading the StoryBrand book, and I'm almost all done now with reworking everything and developing that StoryBrand script that he talks about. And I think one of the things that Bethany touched on was the fact about the guide. But what we need to understand is that we are the guide, and what we're doing is providing a plan and spurring our people into action. Mm-hmm. So, and I liked one of the things that he mentioned. I wish I could directly quote it. I don't have it handy. He talked about if you believe in your product, you're going to talk about your product. Rather than, because if you don't, then people are going to view you as, you know, when you do talk about it, that it comes across like begging. Buy my product. You're begging versus, you know, offering them something. And what I came down to in the final analysis, and I'll be tweaking it constantly, was that I am taking those people who come to my website from unpublished to published, and, you know, fine-tuning it, adding those little words like bestseller, so that it helps create a vision of what they can achieve. You're wanting to help them achieve their dream, and so you have to really connect with everything that, you know, all those pain points like Bethany mentioned, and where they want to be. You want to help them get from where they are to where they want to be.
It really tells us to study our reader, doesn't it? It's just, I think one of the best things I know I've done on my website is once a year. I've done it 3 times now. I've done a reader's survey. And often I find those pain points, or I affirm what I think is the pain points. I find it, yeah, that is true. But the other thing I find is their language that they use to describe that. And often that's the connecting point. When I may be thinking this term, they're using this term, And then that's how it's really helped me speak their language.
Yeah. And like, okay, so this is why I recommend the You Are a Brand book, just because for those of you who have the book at this point watching the replay, page 58 in her book, she talks about Pampers diapers and how when they started, it was they felt a pain point for mothers would be the convenience of not using cloth diapers. And so that's how they marketed that it was disposable. So it was faster and it would save them time. But that was a pain point, but there was a bigger pain point for moms, and Pampers weren't selling. And so what they found out was that there was, in the mother's minds, cloth diapers were better. So they would take extra time to use the cloth diapers instead of disposable because they felt like it was better for their baby. And so when Pampers reworded their message to be more absorbent, which was the benefit for the baby, then they took off, and now they're they're a leading company. But they didn't used to be that way. Now they're a premium diaper. Now Love's competes with them based on price, and you can kind of rank them. But I thought it was interesting. Like they did all the right stuff, but for the parent, for the mom, it went beyond her pain point to the baby's pain point. So it was like even another step removed. And so once it was better for the baby, then they bought. And so like that's why we can't be afraid. We call it pivot. Like you can't be afraid to pivot and see, okay, if this isn't connecting, what is the thing that will connect? And then when you hit it, you go for it.
Do you find it's probably going to take us? You talked about you going to black and white. Do you have gold? I think too in your brand. Do you think you'll stay there? Or do you think it'll pivot again in 2 years?
I think with the prestige aspect on I think it'll stay. I've held it for a long time, and partially because when you start reading about what your fascination advantage is, all these things clicked. Like I was already doing things with black and gold, and then once I realized like why I was doing that, everything went black and gold. Like so for like my company is Jet Setter Inc., which I don't talk about a lot. So that is a black and gold. Mm-hmm. Everything there follows underneath that. So what it did is it gave me permission to do the things that I was already doing because I needed permission to do it from myself. A lot of people fall into that where they need someone to tell them it's okay. I needed that permission. And so Sally Hogshead gives you that permission, makes you feel like, okay, I'm not trying to be so fancy. I love this, and this is why I'm doing it. Now I can do it. And then on the opposite end too, innovation is my lowest for fascination. So the creativity of coming up with stuff is hard, but if I see it, I can do it. So now I understand my process better, and then you know what to delegate, and then you're not frustrated too. So that's why I think it's important to know your personality, but then also the other side, like how people see you and where you're fitting into that.
That's been great to like you said, you've given us kind of both sides of the issue today. Other questions, comments? Got our group here? Do you want to come on?
It's really been great, Bethany. Thank you so much for all the information.
It's been great. A lot of resources. Rebecca, what were you going to say?
Just what Bethany was saying about the prestige. I think it's so neat that it's okay to realize who you are and that you don't maybe fit into a certain mold. Like what you're saying, Bethany, that would be so my probably lowest, the prestige. But the innovation would be me. I don't even know what the book says, but I want to read that. It sounds so good.
It does sound good. Sounds great. Great. Okay, well, thank you, Bethany. This has been a whirlwind of ideas and resources. And like I said, I bought the one. Now I have to go get a couple more, I guess, So thank you for that. Next week is fiction?
I think so.
Yeah, Melissa's saying yes. Melissa, do you remember what it is right off?
Yeah, Serious Writer Book Club. We're going to be discussing our favorite books.
There you go. So everybody should come, fiction or nonfiction, or does it matter?
Everyone can bring their favorite book or two books to discuss. We're just talking about our favorite books and why we love them.
Good. There you go. Really good. That'll be kind of a fun discussion, and you'll get some new resources, I'm sure. Get some new ideas and stuff. And I think Melissa and Johnny are doing this next week because Bethany and I are both traveling and all that. Okay. Anything else for the sake of the group before I stop the recording? And then stay on.
Bethany.
Yes, thank you again, Bethany, and stay on, please, for the after party. And those of you that are watching the replay, well, thank you for staying to the end. I hope you had a lot of good ideas, and you join us next week on the Writer's Chat. Thanks again, Bethany. See you guys all. Well, Bethany and I will see you in 2 weeks. See Melissa and Johnny next week for Bring Your Favorite Book.